Back to Back with your host, Chris Ellison. On Back to Back, we feature a lineup of Christian music, and most of it is Canadian. We love Canada, and we love our Canadian artists. We want to showcase their music on this show. We'll feature reviews, artist interviews, and we'll play some of their songs. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us on Back to Back.
Back to back, back to back, stronger back to back.
Welcome again to Back to Back. My name's Chris Ellison, and I'm glad to be with you here today so that I can share with you some Christian music, some that are brand new and some that you probably heard before. Well, on today's program, we have a bit of a treat. We have an in-depth interview with Steve Bell. He's a Canadian Christian artist who's been around for many years and has recorded several albums. We had a chance to get in-depth and personal with him and find out what he's been doing musically and who he's been hanging out with, some of the collaborations he's made, and we also had a great conversation about other matters as well related to Christ and our place within this world. But first up, we're going to focus on a Canadian Christian artist from Kitchener, Ontario. His name is Matt Brower. Now, Matt's music continues to showcase his signature blend of soulful, introspective lyrics with melodic folk and pop influences. Brower has earned several accolades throughout his career, including the Canadian Gospel Music Award for Best Contemporary Christian Album. What makes Matt Brower unique is his ability to craft deeply personal and reflective songs that resonate with wide audiences, often drawing on his own experiences and spiritual journey. Well, for more information, check him out at his website. That's mattbrower.com, and Brower spelled Brouwer. So mattbrower.com, check it out. Right now, we're going to jump into a couple of his songs on Back to Back. And let's start it off with his song, A Simple Plan.
I can't live here anymore, here in a line, wasting away, but I can't make it to the door. I don't know why I can't escape a simple plan to get you into the main attraction. But how far backward will you bend to get another reaction?
to back.
Come to me now, and lay your hands over me. Will you find me tonight? Say it will be alright, and I will believe. Broken into, oh, and I know you're onto me, that I only come home when I'm so all alone. But I do believe, yeah, not everything is gonna be the way you think it ought to be. It seems like every time I try to make it right, it all comes down on me. Please say honestly you won't give up on me, and I shall believe. I shall believe. Open the door, oh, and show me your face tonight. I know it's true, no one heals me like you, and you hold the key. Never again, no, no, will I turn away from you. I'm so heavy tonight, but your love is alright, and I do believe, oh, that not everything is gonna be the way you think it ought to be. It seems like every time I try to make it right, it all comes down on me. Please say honestly you won't give up on me, and I shall believe. I shall believe. And not everything is gonna be the way you think it ought to be. It seems like every time I try to make it right, it all comes down on me. Please say honestly you won't give up on me, I shall believe. I shall believe. I shall believe. I shall believe.
And now, a back-to-back Canadian artist feature.
Well, welcome back. Well, I'm happy to say that we've got a special feature today. We're going to be focusing specifically on Steve Bell. And some people may know him and some may not. He's a celebrated Canadian Christian artist from Winnipeg, Manitoba. He's renowned for his profound lyrics and soulful acoustic sound. With a career spanning over 3 decades, Steve's music blends traditional folk influences with contemporary Christian themes, exploring faith, justice, and personal reflection. And in his latest album, he continues in this tradition, showcasing his commitment to deep, reflective songwriting. He's known for his engaging storytelling and dedication to both social and spiritual issues. He maintains a compelling voice in the Christian music industry, and we're happy to have him on right now. Steve, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you asking me on. It's an honor.
Well, we're really happy to have you on because, as we were talking earlier, a lot of people know you. A lot of people that I come into contact with know Steve Bell, and you have been doing this for so long, and you've had so many albums that people have at least heard of you. And we want to get to know what you've been doing over the last while. I mean, you're out west, so you're not in Ontario where we are, and so sometimes we don't see some of the activities and things you're doing. And there's a lot going on, and we're excited about that. And I want to bring that to the people who are watching back to back. So we're really glad that you can be a part. So, Steve, as we talked a few minutes ago, your music intertwines faith, hope, social justice in a unique way. So how do you navigate these themes in your songwriting? And is there a specific message or call to action that you hope resonates with your audience?
Probably not as deliberate as people would expect. I typically don't, have I'm concerned about this or this global event. I should write a song. I typically read and I pray and I watch news and I think and I stress, and then songs come out. And then I kind of go, this is clearly about this or that. I should pay attention. So it's almost like my songs lead me more than I lead them. It's like I chase my own songs after. So I've got a new album coming out in a month called The Glad Surprise. And I wrote a little booklet to go with it. And the whole purpose of writing the book was to actually investigate my songs, to find out what's going on in my soul, and then trying to think about where am I being led. Mm-hmm. So it's funny, for a lot of people, in their spiritual walk, artists, they do said work and then they write about it, where I write about it and then I do the work.
As you've recorded each album, and at each album representing a time in your life, a story, a chapter in your life, when you look at the number of albums you have, looking back, are there any particular albums or projects that you're especially proud of, and why?
Yeah, I think the first one for sure, Comfort My People, because it was just such a surprise. I put out this album, I put out like 100 copies of cassettes, and I thought it was done. And that was over 30 years ago and 23 albums ago. I just didn't even expect a second one. So there's just a big surprise that happened with that first one. So I'm proud of that. I'm still delighted about that. I did not, it wasn't a strategy. I didn't think there was a future. I had some songs. I put out I put it out, and here I am. So that was lovely. In I think 1994, I put out an album called Burning Ember, and there's a song on there called Burning Ember. And that was the first time I wrote a song that when I sat back, I looked at the song and I went, that song knows more than I do. And I would say that one of the theological mentors of my life is the song that I wrote. Interesting, because that was going to be my next question about your influences and inspirations. Yeah. Who would have thought that a song you wrote would speak to you? Yeah, but I just remember kind of going back and then kind of going, oh, there's something more about this gift, spiritually speaking, in terms of music, than I can be a clever songwriter, or I can write a hooky melody, or I can, I can do something soothing to your soul. The fact that through the exercise of this gift, like truth got revealed or wisdom got revealed that was beyond me, that ended up teaching me, that literally changed my orientation to everything I do now. So every time I write a song, I sit back and kind of go, okay, what do you know? Like, where are you leading me? Where are you taking me? And this gets back to where I said, well, when I finished an album, a bunch of songs, I have to go now find out what they want from me. And you sort of have a storytelling way of presenting your music. Yeah. How do you craft songs that not only reflect your personal experiences, but also strike a chord with listeners from diverse backgrounds? There's something about telling your story over and over again. Like what my job is to tell my stories night after night after night after night. And that's also like the power of the AA movement, Alcoholics Anonymous, that you tell your story. Yeah. And the more you hear yourself tell your story to people who are actually listening, you find wisdom and you find trajectory and you see God. Oh, God was always there. The Spirit of Christ was always there, but you have to tell your story enough to recognize it. And I think one of the benefits of being Steve Bell is it's actually my job to tell my story night after night after night. And people, and there's a few couples in Southern Ontario who've been to over 40 concerts, and they've both of them told me they said we'll stop coming when there's no new stories, or there's no new version of an old one. And it's not like I'm changing the stories from my past, but how I tell it changes the more I understand it, the more I see things in it, and I'll emphasize this and de-emphasize that part because I'm starting to realize, these stories aren't really about history as much as they're digging at meaning. What's the meaning behind the story, And so I've got a story that I tell about my dad coming out to the bar to see me play when I first started to play, and I didn't want to tell my dad I was a bar musician for about 6 months. He didn't know. He was living in Edmonton and I was in Winnipeg, and he thought I was working in a music store. And I just didn't know how to tell him that I was my father, the Baptist minister, the man who I loved the most in my life. He was a deeply wonderful human being. And I didn't want to tell him I was a lowly bar musician, not because I thought he'd be angry or anything. I just thought he'd be disappointed. And I didn't want to disappoint my dad. And after lying to him for about 6 months or even closer to a year, he showed up in Winnipeg and found out where I was playing and showed up to the bar and spent a whole night with me in the bar.
That's awesome.
And at the very end of the evening, I drove him back to the hotel, and I said, "Dad, I can't believe you came there." This was in 1978, Baptist ministers did not go to the bar to hang out with their sons, unless they were there to drag them out, And he hung out with friends. We had a great time, And I said, "I can't believe you came there." And I'm going to cry. I cry every time the story. He looked at me and said, "How can I not? You're my son." Now, I don't remember a lot of the details of the story. I don't remember who was there. I don't remember the color of the walls. I don't remember how many people were there. I was in 2 bands at the time, so I can't no longer remember which band it was that night he came to. One night, I think it was this one. So there's a lot of details that I've lost in the retelling. But the ones that have not been lost are the ones that lead to that line, "How can I not? You're my son." And so I realized in the end, in the same way that Burning Ember knew something and was leading me somewhere that I didn't know I was going to go, my own story was leading me somewhere. That in telling it and retelling it, I've discovered more and more how my own story is one of my mentors. But I have learned to pay attention and to retell it and to always tell it with the eye to meaning, the truth of the meaning, not the truth of the details. That doesn't mean that we get to sort of make up stories and pass them off as true, but to really understand that the historical data is not the truth of the story.
Yeah.
The truth of the story is that my dad didn't want to lose his boy, and he bought a ticket to fly to Winnipeg to let his boy know that he knew who he was. He was Steve Bell's dad, and there's nothing that Steve Bell could do about that. And he just wanted me to know. That's the story.
What a great story. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, Steve. This was really exciting and a really good conversation. And I look forward to the editing process so that I can relive and our listeners as well to further process this and try to integrate it into our lives and in our relationships. And so thank you so much for being a part of Back to Back.
Yeah, and thanks for thinking about me, and I look forward to other people you talk about, because this is all of our concern.
So ladies and gentlemen, Steve Bell, he can be found at stevebell.com. We're going to jump into a couple of his songs right now, back to back. Here we go.
It's not about science or benefits the dead contest. But there's some strange reliance yet on particles to fix the mess. Who knows if this thing we call life looks fine in another one's eyes, or bellies up with the goods everyone can approve of. One thing that I've learned in my time, you can't win if you have to draw lines. When it comes to the struggle
place, no doubt. But who gives the orders to abandon hope for common ground? Who knows if this thing we call life looks fine in another one's eyes? Bellies up with the goods everyone can approve of. One thing that I've learned in my time: you can't win when you have to draw lines. When it comes to the struggle to show and approve of. It's always been about love. 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 One thing that I've learned in my time: you can't win when you have to draw lines. When it comes to the struggle to show and to prove love. It's always been about 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 love. It's only ever been about love.
Back to back.
This is the day to leave the dark behind you. Take the adventure, step beyond the hearth. Shake off at last the shackles that confined you, and find the courage for the forward path. You yearned for freedom through the long night watches. The day has come, and you are free to choose to set aside your still familiar crutches, to step into the lovely long for blue. After the dimly burning wick of winter that seemed to dull and darken everything, the Lenten sun shines clear beyond your shelter, clean as sight itself, while the reed birds sing, as heaven bows to kiss creation's surface, as light surrounds and glimmers on the dew. You pause to pray, the holy saints preserve us. Then step into the lovely longed for blue. Breathe deep and be renewed by what you're breathing. Kin to the keen east wind and the cleansing air. As though the blue itself were blowing through you. As though you always knew that you'd find it there. For all you know, the aching of the ages awaits the blessed courage of the few who join the company of pilgrim sages that step into the lovely longed for blue. For all you know, the aching of the ages awaits the blessed courage of the few who join the company of pilgrim sages that step into the lovely longed for blue.
Well, welcome back. Well, we've been listening to a couple of songs from Steve Bell. We heard a lovely song for Blue and About Love. And it was a great interview. It was great to find out what he's up to and where he's heading, and we'll follow along with him. And before that, we heard Matt Brower and a couple of songs for him. Well, it's time we wrap up another show, and we thank you for being a part of it. We had an opportunity to listen to some great Christian music, and there is more to come and more interviews. If there's a Canadian Christian artist that you think you'd like to hear on this show and maybe be interviewed and for us to play some of their music for you, let us know. And one important thing to note here is a lot of the interviews that we do on Back to Back that we air on the show are only a portion of the full interview that we conducted. The full interview can be found on our website and in video form. Check us out at www.backtobackradio.ca. Well, I've got to sign off right now, so make sure you tune in next week. My name's Chris Ellison, and thanks for listening to Back to Back.
You've been listening to Back to Back, and we thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out at www.backtobackradio.com. If you know a Canadian Christian artist that you want to hear on this program, let us know. Well, check us out next week right here on Back to Back.
Back to back, stronger together.